If you've moved here to Nashville from any major city around the world, New York, London, Los Angeles, the first thing you're going to find out when you're trying to go out and do something fun on a Thursday, who knows what's going on? I mean, this seems to be this big it city, but does anybody know what's actually happening here? There is no Time Out magazine. There is no New Yorker. And in order to know what's what, you kind of have to know somebody. I mean, we're all really sure that something's happening. After all, it's Nashville. The Urbaanite Magazine has become that. This conversation with Ashley Currie, the founder of Urbaanite Magazine, might just be the person you need to know. Not only for those reasons, but also in about 2018, I remember sitting down at a coffee shop, The Post, East Nashville, where Ashley said, hey, I think I'm starting a magazine. And it was the Urbaanite. And a few weeks later, there it was sitting in front of me. I thought to myself, can you just do that? Well, yeah. A few years later, fast forward now, we're starting the Museum of Presence. And so in a way, this conversation with Ashley Currie is kind of a conversation with a very early inspiration. It took a long time for this to come to life, but I still look back at that conversation as the thing that sort of unlocked in me to say that, hey, you can do this too. Camilla Sander and I'm Shabazz Larkin, sat down with her and we had a conversation about where she thought Nashville was going. We got some advice on what we should be doing on a Thursday. Enjoy.
Yo, this is too much. Slow down. Peace, God, peace.
From Music City, Nashville, to the world. This is not a podcast. This is not a conversation about art. This is an attempt to wake you up. And now that I've got your attention, don't listen to the words. Listen to the silence between the words. You are now entering the Museum of Presence. How you feel?
Yes, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great, actually. Now that I finally get to have a conversation with Ashley Currie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we are here with Ashley Currie, founder and editor of Urbaanite Magazine, Shabazz, artist, and just everything wonderful.
Yes, that's about good.
And me, Camilla Sanders, founder of Greater Than Equal, and also host of Fashion Futurist podcast and community. But we're here in the Museum of Presence, right?
I love it.
So we are very present with this conversation. So I'm super excited. I have definitely heard your name in rooms and everyone's like, you should meet Ashley. So here we are now. I love what you're doing in the community. And you're from Nashville, right?
Yes, I was going to say, well, first, thank you guys. Thank you, Shabazz. Thank you, Camilla. So all these kind words, I appreciate it. And yes, I am a Nashville native. And a lot of the reasons on why I started Urbaanite was due to that and seeing my city really transforming, obviously. And that's why people are moving here and all the things. So, yes.
Yeah, so I moved here in 2013. And to be honest with you, it was a little bit of a shock because it looked like a cool place and everything. Actually been here a number of times before for conferences. Like, this is like the it city. Everybody wants to go here. And I moved here, and when I went out, I was like, okay, I'm in the wrong place. And I know there's people like urban, I have air quotes, like urban people here, but where do they hang out? What are they doing? And I also found myself, well, I still live here. So it kind of grows on you. Like, what do you think it is about Nashville? And I know you've seen the growth over the year. What is it about Nashville that makes it that it city that everyone wants to get to? And why are we stuck? Like, why do we stay here?
Well, I really think Nashville as a whole, it's still so welcoming and people are just really friendly. And it's just naturally that. Like, when you go away, like I went to school and had time, up north, around Chicago, suburbs of Chicago, like it's not like that. And so Nashville is very much home. I always say there's literally like 0.5 degree of separation. So, there's always a connection and there's always someone willing to say, hey, you need to talk to such and such, or hey, you need to do this. And especially Black Nashville, being from here and even having time where I left, when I say, oh, my mom is this person, or, oh, you know, my cousin, or there's always that bond. And I think it naturally projects out to people that come. And so they like it. I think you mentioned it's kind of slower still, but yet still things to do. You don't feel as overwhelmed like when you go to other cities.
Yeah, it does have that like sense of community.
Mm-hmm,
so let's talk a bit about Urbaanite Magazine, which I think is super cool, super dope. It is. And to be honest, when I came to Nashville, I had to figure out what was happening, who is who. Yeah. And then, you know, Urbaanite Magazine comes along, and this is exactly what I needed when I moved there. So, you know, why did you start Urbaanite Magazine, and why do you think it's so essential to the Nashville community?
Yeah. So I started Urbaanite. My background is in marketing and advertising. And so when I moved back to Nashville and like it was growing and it was all the things, I just felt there's a narrative missing. One, I'm the type of person that loves to get out and go to places. And so I would go to like the top 10 places. And sometimes I'd be like, I shouldn't have gone here. Like bad vibes, bad energy. Like who told you guys this was a cool place to go? And just different things like that. On the other side of it, I was meeting a lot of cool people, a lot of entrepreneurs, kind of just getting myself plugged back in, you know, after being gone for so long. And so I wanted to share their stories. And so you weren't necessarily seeing those stories within like the local media scene. So I just felt, well, since I know how to build a website, I know how to do some design, slight work, I could do this and really just start sharing stories. Had no idea what it would turn into, which I don't suggest, but yeah, I did that. I actually had a partner, so I was going to start it together, and then she ended up moving to Atlanta and literally started it and launched it, you know, by myself. And so, yeah, it was definitely a lesson, but it was really cool in regards to seeing how people rallied around it, because we never had any kind of like marketing budget. You know, when I work on campaigns, you know, you have big budgets and your media plan, you're doing this stuff. No, it was literally a lot of word of mouth. We had a kind of strategic approach with using insiders or people that are kind of in the community that can help share Urbaanite. And so thankfully we were able to grow and really sustain a community of people that, you know, look out for the stuff we share every week. And so that's a blessing. And it's also goes to show that people do want that. Every time people are always like, hey, I didn't know about this. Even when do people want to read this? Because sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? But then I get an email, I see somebody out or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, I just went to this new gym because I saw it on Urbaanite. Or, oh my gosh, you know, I just found my new therapist because I saw it on Urbaanite. And I'm like, oh, yay. I'm so excited. That's why I think it's essential.
All roads leading Nashville music USA.
You mentioned there's these moments where you wonder, is anyone interested? Is anyone listening? Like, what do you do there? Like, how do you make it to the other side of that question or that doubt? Or like, what brings you through that?
Yeah, that's good. So I think for me, my faith is huge. And so one thing I do know, if like God brings you to something, he'll bring you like through it as well. And so I think even as sometimes I say I wouldn't say stifling Urbaanite, but it's always just kind of been right here. And so, you know, what does it look like with growth and what does it look like doing that? And so I think for me, there's still a space to be able to grow and do those things. So I kind of hold on to like my initial vision, hold on to my faith, pray about it, and then keep going. Like I know we have our editorial calendar. We have to push out content every week. I set myself up on this process. And then probably one of the biggest things was when we actually finally started taking on advertisers, because I did not take on advertisers for a long time because you now have to actually do stuff. Like before I could just tell stories when I wanted to. So if I didn't want to tell stories, I didn't have to. No one was looking for me. That was also a push because, you know, when you take somebody's money, you have to give them a result back. So anyway, I think also knowing that I'm held accountable for now being able to provide our service, being able to provide our content, being able to provide all those things, because that's what people are looking for us to do. So that's also a part of it too.
It's an interesting parallel thing for us because the Museum of Presence was generously funded by the Metro Arts National Commission, but that's it. And there's people who are like, hey, just tossing us, saying, hey, I want to support, I want to give you some money. Yes. And we're like, thank you, but what do you want? What do you want?
Yeah.
And hesitant to really accept anything from anyone so that we can be free and just let this be our first piece be a fun piece. But
Yeah.
I don't know how that changed for you.
Yeah, I mean, my mother is a big component of like, say what you mean, what you say, do what you mean, all the things. And so once you're taking in somebody's money, it just made me really feel like, one, it turned into a real business. So like right before COVID, we were in a program through one of our local entrepreneur centers. And so they were talking to me because I was sharing my numbers on our community and how we've grown. And they're like, oh, wow, Ashley, you should really, really do advertising. And I've heard that before. And I'm like, no. But once I did it, it allowed me to start thinking differently. And then obviously COVID happened. So then it was, okay, now what am I thinking about too? So just changing mindsets and kind of like really seeing where Urbaanite could go. And then from there, I guess me being able to let go of things to have other people help, because a lot of things I did by myself. I don't know if it's whatever, but you're always like, I can do it, I can do this, I can do that. And it's like, oh gosh, like let go of that. And so it's been great ever since I've really been able to let go of like, I need to do it all. People can help. We can get this. We can do advertising. We can do all these things and it's good. But initially it's very nerve-wracking, very nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Yeah, hearing that story, I mean, as a fellow entrepreneur, that's very inspiring. like I can keep pushing. Keep pushing. And one thing that we keep saying is like the story, telling people's stories. And I know that's so important for an entrepreneur, people in the community, because people know what you do, but they don't know like who you are or why you do it.
Or how you got through. Yeah.
Right, how you got through. And even, when I'm able to tell my story, my friends are like people that I've known for years, they're like, I didn't even know that about you. So can you talk a little bit about that, about some of the stories that you feature Urbaanite, or just like what angle you use to tell people's stories?
Yeah. So for Urbaanite, I've always wanted to, steep it in celebration and joy. So I think, focusing on African Americans and our community, sometimes we tend to focus either on celebrity entertainment or we focus on trauma. And so for me, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure we were a real lifestyle brand. A lot of times people don't think lifestyle or, we're biggest consumers. We're doing all the things, like we love things. We love experiences. We love laughing. We love celebration. On top of, yes, there's other things. And so I felt I wanted to focus on that. Lifestyle, number one. And then I wanted to focus on the people first. So with all of the stories we do, there's normally some type of component. If we're going to feature a gym, we're going to talk about the owners and why they started it versus just saying, hey, you can go to boot camp or you can go here. We're going to give you that, but we're going to talk about like why they started it, have them be the face, have them be able to talk about their experiences. So that's kind of always been my intention around it, because I feel people connect with people, right? And so I would say that's really how we approach storytelling. And my whole goal is always to shed light on hidden gems or shed light on something that one of my friends said at one point, like, where do you find these? Like, I've never. And I'm like, I always love, if I'm out, I am very much listening. It may not seem like it, but I'm very intentional. Like if I hear something or I'm like, oh, I didn't know this or that, or like even listening to you, like I'm already like, oh yeah, so this is happening. Like we totally have to talk about what you're doing, obviously, all the things. So yeah, that's just being intentional on what I'm hearing. And then how can we share that story of what they're doing in Nashville?
Yeah, you are a connector. I heard you say that before. And I feel like, I am, that's why I said we're like the same person.
Yes.
But I mean, it's almost, when you're describing that, I'm thinking you're really creating a paradigm shift of what people typically think about urban, African Americans. Like you telling those stories, it's shifting what people typically see in the media.
Never thought about that, but I hope so. I really, especially now with just all the things, and it's real heavy at times. So for me, I'm always looking for escape and respite, because sometimes if you're watching the news, you can get bogged down. I mean, it's a lot. And so, yeah, I hope there's a shift. I hope that we also have the shift too, like within our own community, as well as just community at large, where how they view and see people. But at the same time, I just hope each person that I'm allowed to share their story feels great about it, can utilize that for future things that they're doing, and continue to get excited about the work that they're doing because they see somebody wanting to share it. Because sometimes I know people are looking for a Vogue or something, to share their stories, but local media can really help too, and sometimes that'll give you that boost you didn't even think you needed. So yeah.
It definitely does.
Man, somebody told me that there's nothing you can do with national fame. It doesn't actually help you. It only hurts you everywhere you go. But local fame, if people know you where you live, it can be very rewarding and helpful.
I love that. Yeah.
And, I get that because when I do art show, after I do art show, I feel like everybody knows me. Everywhere I go.
Everybody does know you should. But
and it's dope because I feel like there's people there supporting my kids. There's people that involve my community, people that come over my house and eat dinner with me. If I'm in Albuquerque and that happens, I'm scared. But here in my own community, it feels like a beautiful relationship.
Absolutely. That's a good, I never heard that, but I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah, so you mentioned sometimes it's heavy. Can you talk just a little bit more about that? Like some of the challenges that you face on this journey of telling everyone's story, and like how did you overcome them?
Yeah. Well, one, I would say to start off, like when I first started Urbaanite, a lot of people were saying, oh, you shouldn't focus on or center. Because, at the end of the day, anyone can consume whatever. As African Americans, we've been consuming all things Black at times for a while, and we've been in spaces where we've been the only one. But at the same time, they've said, oh, you shouldn't just focus on the African American experience. And I was like, well, that's weird, because I felt there was a need for it. And so I think some of the obstacles were, one, just continuing to, going back to when I said with my faith and everything, just continuing to kind of have that check-in, like, yes, this is what I'm doing. I'm in alignment. This vision is where I should be going, because sometimes so much noise, and I think it's continuing to get more noise. Everyone knows that. Anything you're trying to do, it's always going to be 50, 11 things, like, oh, you should probably do this, and as soon as you put something out, somebody is always going to have something to say, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And so being able to just kind of get past that, I think, has probably been one of the biggest things that I feel like I'm doing better at, and trying to stay focused on what it is that God has deposited in me to do. And so I think that's probably the hardest thing. It's us. Sometimes it's like, what do they say, getting past me? So yeah, I would say that. Finding stories and finding things, that's easy. But then putting it out there, yeah, you don't want to second guess yourself, especially when you're trying to do things and grow and all that.
How do you do that? Like, how do you shut out all that noise, stay focused, stay authentic to what you know, your vision and your purposes, and really follow what you know that God has for you? Like, how do you hear that? How do you stay focused on that when there's so much noise?
Oh, man. One, I feel like I'm being so cheesy, but prayer and devotion are huge. So that's a kind of daily part of what I do. I also try to make sure that I am planning out what my day looks like the day before. And then every Sunday, I'm really looking at my whole week. Like I always say, if it's not in my calendar, it's not going to happen. So doing that, and then really trying to, I always call it my funnel, but I don't know, it goes back to marketing class or whatever. But anytime, especially if you're growing or whatever, there's always opportunities. There's always someone saying, you should do this, you should do that. I always try to run it through my funnel of hey, this is what you said you wanted to accomplish in 2023, or hey, this is what you said you wanted to accomplish this month, or whatever that looks like. And if it doesn't necessarily align with that, then I don't have to do it. So then that kind of makes it even better to continue to stay focused on what I do want to do and what, I'm planning to do. Those are some of the things I do.
Good.
But
so I got three things.
Yeah.
You said prayer and devotion.
Yes.
Which you said might be cheesy, but if that's cheesy, our whole magazine is cheesy, okay? Everything about this project is cheesy.
Absolutely.
So prayer and devotion. You said planning ahead, the week for the week ahead.
Yep.
And having selective focus on the things that are in your purview, in your circle, and part of your goals and plan. Oof.
Yes.
Ooh,
I'm taking
heard it here
notes.
first. Here, editor, insert Jamaican influence here as well.
So I can't wish you. I love it. No, you're good.
So when I've heard your name, I have not just heard it with Urbaanite. Because so I know that you have your hand in a lot of different things in the community. And even Urbaanite is like a huge thing.
Thank you.
So how do you practice self-care, being involved in the community, doing all the things and all the different things? Like, what are some of the things that you do to practice mindfulness and self-care?
Yeah. So definitely trying to make sure to always have, so family is very important to me, and family and friends. And so I think sometimes people don't think that can re-energize you just in itself. And sometimes when you're busy doing all the things, like I do always want to make sure like I'm checking in and seeing my mom. I'm stopping by her house. I'm checking in with like my friends, and I'm making sure we have those intentional moments to go on a trip or to just have brunch or to just go over their house because they just, built their patio and they're like, yo, you got to come over and see it. So one, that is a part of self-care, family and friends, because they are so important to me. They're why I do what I do. That's very important. And also for me, I try to take time to just do things that I enjoy doing that have nothing to do with work, because it's so much like Urbaanite it really is a constant, but you still have to, have time to step away. So like everyone knows I love like hiking. You can find me at Radnor. I love, doing kind of outdoorsy things, even though I hate insects and bugs. Everyone's like, I've never seen it, but I love it. So yes, it's like making those times, and then travel is a big one for me. So I do try to always, ensure if I'm not taking like a little mini weekend trip or whatever, like I'm taking some type of travel. But then I always have like little moments, and I didn't realize it until I was listening to another podcast, but those are like my self-care moments. But like literally at the end of days, I love tea. I don't drink coffee. I love, like, don't get me started on my loose leaf tea and everything. Like I'll make my tea, I'll have my day, and then like either I'm like, now, I don't know if I'll be watching reality TV, but I'll be drinking my tea and I'm like, this is good. And so those are moments too where I try to take it just throughout the day to have a moment. I may like take a walk or have my tea and, center. And then of course, the usual things, like I love getting my nails done, doing facials, all the things. But eating is really like my self-care too. I love trying new restaurants. Yeah.
Basic need.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And, this is the Museum of Presence. And so you named all these things like traveling and visiting family and friends and going hiking. And I know, like, when you have so much stuff to do, are you there, like, thinking about Urbaanite? Like, how do you, like, check out? Do you check out in those moments and you're, like, very present? Like, how...
Yes, I'm very much a checker-outer.
That's a thing, a checker-outer.
Yes, I am. And I'm thankful for that 100%. I will check out, especially like dinners or whatever. And sometimes I get on like family and friends because I'm the one, I won't have my phone at dinner. I won't have my phone on hikes. I want to be there because literally I don't want to think about anything else because I know I'm going to get back to it. So yeah, I do try to do that. I think it's important.
Why is it important?
Because we're so full, it's so much noise, y'all. It's a lot. Like if you think about your day, I was literally it was like this professional development, it was like a workshop, women's workshop, whatever, a couple months ago. And she was talking about how many times we're interrupted, like with phones or whatever. She said the average person, it was something crazy, like 176 times a day and that means any type of lighting of your phone, so if it's a notification or, that's a lot for one person. So, you have to, otherwise you'll never be able to be focused, never. And I can't have that. I can't. So I have to for myself. And that's notifications too. I remember when I first turned on my notifications for my phone, it was several years ago when I discovered on my iPhone. And like my friends were like, oh my God, this girl, you can't get in touch with her after 9. She turned, like everyone was all talking about me, like you better call Ashley by 8:45. And now I notice more and more people are using that do not disturb. Now they add a little focus. And I'm like, it's nice, isn't it? Like, I love that. So I try to turn things off just for my, my sanity and my purposes, for me. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. And Shabazz, the theme of the first newspaper is...
May I be brave enough to speak my truth.
Okay.
What does that mean to you?
Ooh.
Are there times that you feel like you've ever been like brave enough to speak your truth?
Oh, it depends on settings.
Okay, talk about it.
It depends on settings because I can be a very private person.
That's so interesting that you say that because you have an entire magazine.
Yes, exactly.
Called the Urbaanite. And it's almost as if you just putting that magazine out there is speaking your truth.
Yeah.
You know? Like, this is me,
yeah.
this is who I am,
That's
this
true.
is what I believe in, and this is what I'm promoting.
Oh my God, I just had like a revelation right now. Thank you, Lord. But yeah, I guess it is. And I guess Urbaanite has been that space. Yes, because it does kind of, if you look at Urbaanite and like what we focus on, what we talk about, it's definitely things that speak to me, people, their stories or whatever. So yeah, I guess so. And I guess it's a way, I guess it is a way to do it.
And it's uncompromising.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't compromise. You didn't say I'm going to do something else. You're like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's your truth.
In the face
I love
of
that,
people
yeah.
questioning whether or not that
Yeah.
should be what you do anyways.
Yeah.
So I think that you're, at least with some of the work that we know about, you are a shining example of what it is to speak your truth.
Oh, well, thank you.
So thank you for that work.
Yeah. Oh, thank y'all.
Messed up. No, baby, that's something you ought to give God glory for that you accomplished. You know what? God, I woke up this morning in my right mind, and that. Sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back and you got to raise the other hand and say, God, where would I be if it were not for you? If it had not been for the Lord on my side? So look at somebody and say, excuse me. But tell them I need to take a moment and give God glory for the process. I need to thank God for the stuff I've been overlooking. Baby, I'm giving God glory for every little step I take, every little breakthrough he makes. I'm giving him glory.
I wanted to make sure that we asked you just a little bit about your column. You know, I'd love for you to tell us, you know, what people expect from your column.
Yep.
For what reasons should they be tapping in? And just tell us a little bit more.
So, yeah, this is, I guess, continued truths are coming out. I am really excited about being able to share those places and attractions and food spots and all that I enjoy. And so coming from just my vantage point and in talking to Shabazz, actually, when we first were talking about it, I realized I never done that. So people can really expect food, cultural attractions, and they can definitely expect Black-owned businesses for sure, because it's just innate, obviously, within me, and just a new way to experience Nashville.
Coming to a Thursday night near you.
And yes to Thursday. I just want to say, Shabazz, Thursday is like my new day. I love Thursdays. Thursdays is it.
It's my self-care day,
It's
actually.
Shabazz.
Thursdays, don't call me on Thursday because you're not going to get me.
I love a good Thursday. People sleep on a Thursday, like they still get happy hours. Thursdays,
Yeah.
you know, you can get specials. You can get a special on your self-care if you get a massage. Check with your folks during those days.
Top 3 spots in Nashville. What do you got?
Okay. One, I would say Cheekwood. Okay. It's this gym that nobody kind of knows about. And in the spring, it's absolutely beautiful.
Highly underrated.
And you can enjoy that in the spring. Next, I would say the Cupcake Collection. The reason why I would say the Cupcake Collection is because it's just become a staple. And I'm just, her whole story and her whole experience, and to have a staple like that in Nashville, it's huge. You know, you think about destination establishments, and that's one. And so
Shout out to the gluten-free sweet potatoes. Y'all don't know, gotta get that.
I didn't know about the
gluten-free
gluten-free,
potatoes.
but just the regular sweet potato, I literally was just there this weekend. Radnor Lake, yes, I would definitely say get into it. It's great for self-care. It's great for walking. They have different trails, so you don't always have to like pick the one where you're, you know, doing crazy stuff. But I would say that's a really good one because it'll get you outside. It's always people, different things, great experience. And yeah, and it's not that far, but it makes you feel like you've like really gone really far.
I love it. I love it. Cheekwood,
Cupcake Collection.
Cupcake Collection, and Radnor Lake. I haven't been to Radnor. So,
Really? Yeah, I would definitely, you have to go. Oh, and Cinema for brunch. Okay, that's
Cinema.
it.
Okay, yes.
I've never
So
been able to
good.
get
That's the best.
in. to cinema.
You have to make sure you're doing a good week to two before and you're in there.
You gotta be on top of your stuff. And I'm gonna call him like, yo, Ashley Currie told me. I need to check y'all.
They were actually our first location. They were open to having a shoot when we first were launching Urbaanite, and we went to 3 different spots, and cinema is, Black owned as well, but they let us shoot there. They did little complimentary appetizers for us, and we had a whole photo shoot there, and they were open to doing that. So I'm always like, I appreciate cinema because they didn't have to really do that, and it was a really cool experience.
Bless God.
Yeah.
I'm so hungry right now.
I'm telling you.
Their food is good.
It is good. It's a good experience. So
I'll check it out.
Love it.
So this has been wonderful. Thanks for all that you're sharing. Looking forward to your column.
Oh.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank y'all. I'm so excited.
If you want to see the rest of Ashley's list of places to go, you have to find her column in the Museum of Presence. In fact, there are a bunch of columnists that we've collected from all over Nashville. There is Hunter Clare and Joe Clemens, who write RSVP Nashville, that has a very lovely array of things to do in the city. CE Gallery is hosting a little information of this underground nightlife, party life scene. There is also a really dope column with Emmanuel Legrier, who is the host of Commonwealth, which is sort of like a men's fashion community. And then there is also Jennifer Wong of the Nashville People of Color Sangha. So really great communities and 4 corners of Nashville to check out and get involved with. I should point out that the Museum of Presence is made possible by a grant from Metro Arts Nashville, a contribution from Studio Bank, and it's also made possible from listeners just like you. So thank you. We have a full volunteer staff. Tanya Lewis, who actually was the owner of that coffee shop, The Post East, and who introduced me to Ashley Currie in the first place. Evan Brown, Camila Sander, and this is a great episode. And with that, I'm Shabazz Larkin.
You are now entering the Museum of Presence.